Hello and welcome to All Caps. I'm your host, Isaac Anderson, and I'm joined by three amazing people. We have Adam Fernandez, author of The Midnight War, a sci-fi space opera epic. We have Dave Dobson, the creator of Snood, ladies and gentlemen, and the author of such books as Unwelcome Matt and the award-winning Kenai. Is that correct? Kenai?
Yeah, that's right.
Kenai. And then, last but not least, we have Tobias Youngblood, the author of the Projectionist series and the Nightmare series. Gentlemen, almost said ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Whoop, I broke my camera. Welcome to the show. So we're all part of a big anthology, like a crazy big anthology. We're all writing short stories. And I was wondering, you guys have a lot of experience in writing short stories? This is only like my second time trying something like this. So any advice you guys have is greatly appreciated.
I mean, I could jump in. I've only really written one short story, which I released over this past holiday. Did sort of a holiday-themed story set in, the universe of all my other books, and it was a fun experience. So when this opportunity came up, I was kind of excited to write another one. So,
and you're in the sci-fi kind of world, correct?
Correct. Yeah, all sci-fi space opera / military sci-fi. Yeah.
I like to ask people, how would you define space opera specifically for you?
For me, I kind of look at it as sort of like lots of dramatic moments, big character arcs, sort of like what you would think of high fantasy, but in space. It's kind of what I think.
Okay. So you're taking like this big epic thing and you're making it kind of tiny now. So was that difficult for you to kind of take those big ideas and put it in something shorter?
That is absolutely the hardest part. Yeah. I mean, for me, like most of my books have a lot of point of view characters. So to pick one and then just take not only just one point of view, but then also a really small sort of like moment in time and just write about and focus on that. It's a challenge, especially when you're trying to convey, aspects of the universe that the story is set in. Also, it can be a little challenging, but it's a fun challenge though.
True. And Dave, you've been at this for a lot longer than the rest of us have. So
I don't know about that, but yeah.
You have more experience in short stories, I believe. I saw on your website you had a specific area for short stories. So
yeah, that's right. I've been.
What is your typical approach?
Well, I look at the word count and then I write more than that, and then I have to cut parts of it out. No, the word count gives me a sort of a sense of how much story I can tell, and then I try to think of an interesting opening and a kind of a twist or an interesting sort of conclusion that you could get to. So mine are very much kind of I don't know. I mean, O. Henry would be flattering myself, but some kind of unexpected thing that goes on from the setup. So yeah, I've written, I wrote a mermaid short story that got published in an online journal. I've been in a couple of other anthologies, one sci-fi one that Craig Martell of 20 Books, formerly of 20 Books to 50K, ran. And then a fantasy one with the Indie Fantasy Addicts group. They put out an anthology almost every year now. And then I've written a couple others that I haven't gotten places for. So yeah, it's a different kind of thing because I tend to write big, 100,000 word novels, and you have to throw a whole bunch of the character arc and world building and all of that kind of stuff out the window and be very efficient about introducing the elements that you need and setting the mood as efficiently as possible, with as little as you can, giving as much meaning as you can to the setup.
Right. So for the short story you're working on for this anthology, it's also sci-fi, correct?
That's right. It's a little bit of a crossover because it's sci-fi, but with people doing magic. So,
I grabbed your art for the thumbnail.
Yeah, I saw that. I'm really pleased with it. It was cool. It's a sci-fi story.
Yes. So Tobias, are you also doing sci-fi or are you doing fantasy? Because you're kind of more in the urban stuff, I've noticed.
So I haven't written a ton of short stories, but I have written a few. I do have a sci-fi horror short story in an anthology that's been published. Outside of that, I just have a couple short stories that are kind of like drawer, like the very first thing I ever started, or I just wanted to
Hmm.
finish a short story before I just even wanted to attempt a novel. But I wouldn't really, even though I have a urban fantasy trilogy, I wouldn't really corner myself in that genre specifically. That's just kind of what that ended up turning into. But
Yeah.
I'm really broad in my interest between fantasy and horror are my primary two, but I also have a little bit of sci-fi, not hard sci-fi for sure, more character stuff, and it tends to have horror elements in it in most of what I write. Um, Even when I don't intentionally go start out that way, it tends to go dark, and and that actually happened with me in this story for this anthology when I first started it. It tends to get darker than I intended to sometimes, and I got to
Hmm.
lighten it up, or I just go just like, okay, this is a horror.
I am familiar with that problem. Yes. Almost all of my stories begin as comedies. Almost all of them
Yeah.
do. They're meant to be funny, and then they go really, really dark. And they go, okay,
Okay.
got to bring it back to neutral, and then ultimately they become thrillers. I find.
Nice.
So let's go in
My-
a circle here. So, what is the short story you're making for the anthology? Can you? I mean, don't give away any spoilers, but so Adam, you mentioned you're doing something in your world. It's sci-fi. Is there a specific thing you're trying to tackle in this short story?
Yeah, it's sort of the story focuses on an older gentleman who is well, not too old actually, but he shows up in my other stories. He is a canyon racer, which is sort of a cross between like an F1 driver and I don't know if you think of pod racing in Star Wars, kind of something like that. And he's gotten himself caught up in some trouble not of his own making, and he's trying to figure that out. And hopefully make it out alive.
Yes, that's always a good thing to with. Make it out alive.
That's right.
I love the pod racing stuff in Star Wars. Is that came out when I was a kid, and that was the coolest thing I've ever seen. It didn't age as good, but when I was a kid, I loved it. So I have a big soft spot for just big, stupid sci-fi engines just blasting through the desert.
Exactly.
That's just so fun for me.
Yeah, my sort of inspiration. I was thinking like fighter jets in the desert, canyons.
Yeah.
That kind of idea.
Very cool. So how did you incorporate rings? That's kind of so anyone who doesn't know, the whole anthology is centered around the idea of something to do with rings in the story. Your story must include rings of some sort.
So I was thinking championship rings from essentially racing championships. So that's the angle I went with.
All right. Mr. Dobson, how about you? What are you tackling with your short story?
The first I want to say, I realize I'm an entire Star Wars generation older than you. I saw episode 4 at age 8 in 1977.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I bet that was special.
Oh, it was so cool. Because there really hadn't been anything like it. I think for you guys, at least, there was the older Star Wars that you might have known about. But for us, it just was totally out of the blue. Yeah. Very cool. So my story, the ring idea, I was sort of thinking about that, and I ended up going with a summoning ring kind of thing. So my main character is a woman who's good at summoning things through a ring, and she's been sort of drafted into this army military operation run by a different group of people who are more warlike and violent, but her culture, to avoid being completely obliterated by these guys, has signed on, and some of them have to go and serve as sort of the battle mages of this group. So her job is to summon these big beasts through the ring that then these violent guys can use to go off and fight wars. And then she gradually realizes that there's stuff going on that she wasn't aware of and has to deal with that. So that's the setup, and then the story kind of evolves from where it starts there.
Right. Very cool. So is there a specific kind of problem you're trying to tackle with your short story? Are you like you exploring any specific ideas?
Oh, that makes me sound sophisticated. No, I write very much seat of the pants. So,
Okay.
To have some sort of idea that I was trying for would be to kind of figure it out retroactively. There are issues, I suppose, of subservience and when you break a contract that you made and what it takes to do that, and also, safety, and then some cool sci-fi and magic concepts I wanted to throw in there. But yeah, in terms of like the deeper meaning of the story, I'll just say I will let readers discover that on their own, because I have no idea what the deeper meaning of it is. But
Well, a good fun short story, or good fun any kind of story, the readers will naturally find a little bit of themselves in it if it's truly good. So oftentimes, if you try to force a moral, you try to force I don't know, a message, it can come across like, oh, you're trying to tell me what to do, you're trying to tell me what to think. But if you just focus on just truth and just story and just character, so much stuff will grow from that, just from the reader's mind.
Yeah, I find in my novels I have enough time with them, writing them, and enough space that I eventually figure out some kind of issue that is interesting that's going on. And it doesn't have to be the whole plot, but like in Kenai, I have a soldier who's been through a lot and is kind of damaged, and the story ends up kind of being a redemption arc for her, and figuring out how much of the damage was her fault versus not. And anyway, so that length story, you have a lot of flexibility. The short stories, I tend to do more kind of just quick adventures with a twist that aren't really trying to get that deep, because you don't have time to get to know the people that well. And especially when you're doing speculative fiction, the setting is so, you have to fit so much of that in. I mean, the setting and the world building are why sci-fi and fantasy novels tend to be longer than regular novels anyway. And to do it in a short story, you're basically throwing out 20-30% of whatever your word count is, just to get across the cool world you're trying to do and the culture you're trying to represent. So yes, so that's my excuse for why I don't have deeper themes, is that all this other stuff.
Cool. Yeah. Well, so long as it's fun, then everyone wins.
Well, I hope so.
Tobias, what about you? What's your story about? What are you bringing? Rings. How are rings in your story? I need to get better at asking these questions.
I'll just tell you about my story. So I had two offerings. The first one, I kind of am retracting, hopefully. I don't think it's quite the fit for the anthologies, because I think 5,000 words is too truncated for kind of what I was going for that. But the one I've put forth as my second effort is really more of a fun D&D style story, featuring half goblin as the main character, and it also has these kind of mysterious butterflies, and it's in a swamp setting. It's very much inspired by, even though it's a D&D style world, and I think of it more as a D&D style, there are orcs in it. It's like a tribe of orcs, and they're very much inspired by Warhammer orcs. They're goofy, not very intelligent, funny. The orcs are spelled with a C, not a K. I'm not really trying to jump into the Warhammer universe with it, but it's inspired by that. But essentially, like the story of it, he's a half goblin. He's in this, so it's kind of like very familiar. I'm not really going for originality here. It's a very familiar, like an outsider within a setting, and they kind of encounter these butterflies. The butterflies will only interact with the main character. Everyone else despises the butterflies in the swamp. And it turns out that butterflies are extremely powerful beings in this broader world. And this is just a tiny little piece of a bigger world I'm working on called Magabom, and it's gonna have probably multiple novels in the series. So this is just kind of like a little short fun story within that world, with a lot of little world building trinkets in there, thrown in, and hopefully some humor. There's also some ties into video games. I do that sometimes. I do like certain video games. So one of my favorite series is the Souls inspired games. So like Dark Souls, Demon Souls, pretty much every one of those. Bloodborne, Elden
Battle for
Ring.
Bikini Bottom.
Yeah, so there's a scene in the book that's kind of inspired by one of the characters in that series named Patches. So if
Oh.
anyone that has ever played those games, they might recognize kind of where I was coming through with that. But essentially, it's fun. It kind of introduces you to a couple different species in the world and some world building trinkets thrown in there, and it does have like a kind of a resolution and conclusion. As far as like the rings are a big element in it. It's kind of there's kind of a trick, a deception. It's called Fleek's deception. There's a deception in the story that involves rings directly. In the swamp, there's basically, and I don't want to tell the whole story, but there's a big battle, and there's as the orcs do in Warhammer specifically, they like to loot, and so there's a treasure and so forth from this battle, and some of it's been lost, and one of the items is a ring, and it happens to be a ring that might or might not have certain powers. And there might be some trickery involved with said ring. So
A good old Bilbo ring.
yes, so it's kind of where
Very
I'm going
cool.
with. Yeah,
I also have powerful magical insects in my short story.
Nice.
So as I was listening, I was like, so mine is a sci-fi. So the rings for me are tree rings.
Oh, cool.
So in the future, as we get into space, gold, diamonds, platinum, precious metals are as common as dirt. You can get whatever you want for very, very cheap. What you can't get everywhere is wood. So the value of wood goes up a lot as we go out into space because not every planet has trees and wood. So my story focuses around a group of characters. They're loggers. What they do is they go to certain planets that they think might have tree-like growth, and they go check it out. They land on this planet, and the main character, he's not a logger. He's been brought along as an artist. His job is to paint the planets that they visit. There's some legal thing I won't get into in the story where galactic law says before you strip mine a planet, you need to at least paint a big, nice picture of it so it has some cultural significance. So this guy, all he does is he comes to planets and he sits down and he paints these paintings of these planets that no one's ever seen before, and it'll be millennia before people see it again. And so it's kind of a very lonely feeling story. Anyway, so they find some trees that happen to have tree rings in them because they don't always find tree rings, because to get tree rings you need to have plant needs to have a tilt, needs to have seasons. The trees need to have moments of growth and moments of stagnation, and you don't find that everywhere. Most of the trees they find are only kind of like trees. They're not really like trees, but they're similar enough to trees to call them wood. So they find basically a gold mine to this place, and things go strange, to put it lightly.
I like the sound of that.
That sounds delightful. Yeah.
It has been a nightmare. It's been a nightmare to write. Because I'm spinning so many stupid plates. I'm trying to have some metaphysical conversation with it, and I think it's working. I'm in the final stretch of writing all the little connecting pieces to make the story itself work, and I think I am 800 words over. So I need to go through and I need to start deleting things and finding out what can go, what can stay. But it's been fun. I hope it's fun. So when I post it to the Discord, everyone reads it, rip it apart. Let me know if it's boring. I'm terrified it might be boring.
I don't know. I mean, I could do with a space tree discussion. I mean, sounds rad to me. I don't know.
I wrote so much extra stuff about how the trees work that just don't fit into the short story anymore. But yeah, it's been really, really fun. I've really enjoyed making up alien fauna. It's really fun to tackle weird little problems. I was watching an interview with the guy who did Project Hail Mary. What was his name? His name is
Andy Weir.
Andrew.
Andy Weir.
Yeah.
He was talking at length about how he designed Rocky from he started with the planet. He's like, okay, what can live here? And he like built out from that, and he made Rocky. So I didn't go that in depth, but that's kind of the method I took for these trees and the insects that live on the planet as well, and how they coexist. And it's been fun. It's been frustrating, but it's been very, very fun. So I've also been reading short stories as I've been writing the short story, because I was trying to find out, what other authors do. So do you guys have favorite short stories that you've read that you would recommend?
Yeah, I read some just recently, and specifically for this purpose, Ray Bradbury. He's an awesome author. October Country. I haven't even read the whole book, but the ones I read, I was like, these are fantastic short stories.
Yeah, he has a way. He's like an insane person. Just amazing prose.
Yes.
Something Wicked This Way Comes is so unique and so strange. I really love the weird stories. I love the weird stuff.
I'll admit I don't read a ton of short stories. I'd say the vast majority of them that I've read. So like Steinbeck is my favorite author. I love his novels. I'm a really big fan of his short stories. I think they're great. I love sort of stories about, regular people and how he's able to convey that in his stories. I've always have found really impressive. So for me, that's kind of where I'm coming from, but definitely looking for more recommendations. So.
I picked up a book. It's not really a short story anthology. It's like a novella anthology called Legends.
Yeah, sure.
Yes,
I have a copy of that somewhere sitting around here.
It had George R. R. Martin's Hedge Knight short story, I think, at the end.
Yeah.
I saw the series and I was like, that was fun, and I wanted to read the original stuff, so I grabbed the original collection. It was in. I haven't gotten to that story yet, but all the other stuff in it has just been marvelous. It had some Dark Tower stuff that was all right. But then it had some really fun. What was the guy's name?
I know, like Terry Goodkind's in there. I think
Goodkind. I loved the Goodkind story. There was some Pratchett in there with his witch characters, and just a lot of really fun
Tad Williams
stuff.
Maybe is in that one too. I don't know. It's basically like all the famous fantasy authors of the 90s are in that anthology.
I just began Ursula K. Gunn's Le Guin.
Earthsea.
Yeah,
I've read all those. I'm a big fan of those.
Yeah, I was gonna mention her, The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas. I read that when I was really young, and that was the first short story that I'd read where I actually understood that this was social commentary, and
right.
I thought that was kind of cool. I mean, I was only 11 or something, but it was like it was proposing a hypothetical that was meant to be an indictment of Anyway, that was kind of eye-opening to see that, because I had read a bunch of her fantasy, mostly just as fantasy, and then this thing had this kind of deeper punch to it that I didn't really understand. I was like, well, that's kind of dumb. Why would they have a kid? Anyway, it was, but I gradually sort of figured it out, and it was, it was interesting.
They're cool.
Yeah.
So, Dave, you've written all kinds of genres. You've dabbled in fantasy and sci-fi and like whodunit kind of stuff. What's your favorite to work in?
Oh man, I like switching because I like reading different stuff. That is a very bad thing to do, as everyone says who is trying to tell you how to be a good author, because people might fall in love with your stuff and then they're like, why is he writing this stuff with swords? But the fantasy is what I started with, and it's what I keep coming back to, but I really enjoy sci-fi also. And I'm working on another one now. And then the contemporary mysteries are just so different. It's really cool to write some of those because the world building is totally different. You're both much more free because you can refer to something without having to explain. On Earth, they have these things called telephone, like everybody knows what they are, but you're also so constrained because if you do something that somebody knows is wrong, then people will just completely dismiss your book. Whereas if you're writing in a fantasy setting and you're like, well, yes, all the dwarves like beef, then who knows? You just made it up. But if you get the procedure in the emergency room wrong, or you get a courtroom thing not quite right, or you have a gun taking the wrong kind of bullets, people just diss you hard for messing things up like that. So you have to be, in some ways, a lot of it is easier, but in other ways you have to learn a ton more and get it right. So yeah, so that's been a lot of fun too, and I enjoy kind of trying to write things in the real world too, and so yeah, it's like kind of just jump around.
Yeah, that's the key thing that's kept me in sci-fi and fantasy.
Yeah.
Because I know I've had ideas for like a character who might be a lawyer, or a character who's trying to sell houses, and I don't know enough about those worlds, and I would have to do a lot of feet on the ground research to figure all that stuff out, and that'd be that's a lot to do. Or I could just write my stupid story with my mice and just make everything up, and everyone's okay.
I like to make my life difficult, so I set my universe in our solar system, but just really far in the future. So it's familiar enough that like audiences kind of get it, but there's still enough differences that it makes it feel kind of unique, I think.
I did that with this short story, but the way I got over the I don't have to know everything rule is people have started to forget old Earth. There's a line in the short story where when my character's getting hired to become the artist for the trip, he has some guy looking at all his art. He comes to a painting of a mountain on Mars, Mount Olympus, or whatever it's called. I think it's called Mount Olympus.
Olympus Mons,
yeah. And he's like, "Oh, this is very good. Where is this? Is this Mars?" He's like, "Yeah, that's Mars. That was one of Earth's moons, right?" And they're like, "I don't know exactly. I worked off the picture. I didn't actually go there." It's like, "Oh, okay." And they keep going. So they've forgotten a lot of their old Earth past. That's kind of one of the key themes in the story, is remembering things and forgetting things, and it's been interesting. So that's one way I cheat. I just have my characters not know.
See, my Earth is destroyed, so we don't even need to talk about it that much. It's backdrop.
That's fun. Have you read Hyperion?
I haven't. No, it's been on my list for a while though.
Ooh,
funny enough, I write a lot of science fiction, but I've not read a ton of science fiction. I kind of grew up, reading mostly fantasy.
Wow. So Hyperion is great sci-fi, but it just feels like good fantasy too. It's sci-fi by the way of fantasy, but it's still like, it has some hard sci-fi elements.
Which is exactly the kind of sci-fi that I like best.
It's glorious.
Like all the Warhammer stuff and that whole, sort of vibe is kind of what I go for with sci-fi, I think. I like the occasional hard sci-fi here and there, but sparingly, though.
Very sparingly.
Yeah.
Do you guys have favorite books? Like, I love Hyperion. Do you guys, what are your inspirations, I guess is what I'm asking. Like, what inspires you?
The sort of model I shoot for a lot of the time is Princess Bride, the William Goldman book, and then also the movie, because I love how it's funny and trying to be funny, and I do that a lot. But it also has characters that
I have a wonderful copy from like the 90s.
Yeah,
it has a very short little description on the back. Oh, it's fun. It has a wonderful map inside too. It has this gorgeous little map that's
cool.
Not used in the story at all. Just glorious. I love that book.
Yeah, so that a lot of my stuff is that way, and then I'll sort of have them be more serious or less serious as the story develops. But I always try to have some sort of goofy stuff going on that is relevant but kind of silly. But I also love like the Conan stories and Lord of the Rings, and so I'll tend to have some fighting and stuff in the fantasy in particular, and then sci-fi when there's room for it. I have at least some sort of battles and tactics and stuff. Yeah, And then my contemporary mysteries are almost all person who has been really screwed through no fault of their own, trying to figure out, exactly how screwed and if they can do anything about it. So that I like Harlan Coben's, his early stuff was always that kind of thing. There's something really weird going on and now I'm in trouble. And so, yeah, I like that kind of stuff.
I need to get into that again.
Yeah.
I the closest thing I've gotten to that genre, I read the Odd Thomas series by
Dean Koontz.
Dean Koontz. That's the closest I got to, I think, a good classic noir. I would love to go back and read like the real stuff written in like the 70s and the 80s.
Yeah.
I got it. That's on my list. Tobias, what about you? What are your influences?
I would say my earliest like fantasy influences was probably C.S. Lewis. I was a huge fan of Narnia. I read those books several times. And then obviously when I got a little bit older, I loved Lord of the Rings and it's The Hobbit. I read The Hobbit over and over. And then I kind of went dark a little bit with authors like Stephen King and Clive Barker, who I've read a lot of their stuff and love both of them as writers. Especially Clive Barker has a children's book called The Thief of Always that I love. I read that one over and over when I was a child. Yeah, it's illustrated and it's it was really, I really liked that one when I was young. And Stephen King's children's book I liked a lot too. The Eyes of the Dragon.
Yeah, the Dragon. Yeah.
The Eyes of the Dragon. I liked that one a lot when I was younger. So I kind of like really fell in love with fantasy and horror. And then sci-fi, for some reason, I gravitated more towards sci-fi in movies. Not sure why. Obviously, like Star Wars and so forth, but then like really sci-fi horror too. I've always liked sci-fi horror, specifically like Aliens, The Thing, anything in that like vein. I just love. I don't know why.
Have you read Hyperion?
I don't. It's been on my list forever.
Read Hyperion.
I have
it. Has everything you want. Read Hyperion.
We'll do a buddy read for it.
So. I have it. Yeah. So.
I love like my first sort of window into reading books with chapters was the Oz books, the L. Frank Baum's.
I've never actually read those.
Yeah. So they're a lot more elaborate than the movie would let you believe, and they're episodic, and they have all these characters that come and go. And I remember like those were when I was 7 or 8. We had a whole set of them on that were my dad's when he was a kid, and so they were just really cool to go through and super creative. And then I also love fairy tales, some of which got pretty grim. But there was this guy, Andrew Lang, who's a Scotsman, I think, who put together these collections, kind of like the Brothers Grimm, but he did like 9 or 10 of these books, all with different colors. And I just found those very, very cool. Right. And then I got into a big Heinlein kick in kind of middle school and read almost everything that he had, including the really weird stuff that gets into sex, which was not maybe what 14-year-old me needed to be.
Friday was a weird one.
Yeah.
Did you ever read Friday?
Yeah. That was one of the ones I was like, oh, Heinlein, I like him. And then I'm like, wait, what is? Yeah. But no, I was more into the Starship Troopers and the Space Cadet and those kinds of things.
Moon is a Harsh Mistress is a good one.
Yeah, that was great.
That's a really
one Heinlein that I read was "Have Spacesuit Will Travel."
Yep, I love that one.
I adored that one.
Yeah,
I think my main inspiration really was Raymond E. Feist's book, The Rift War Saga. Like all of them. I think that's probably like one of my most direct sort of influences. I really love how he took this really huge, expansive world, had a couple of like sort of immortal characters that sort of tie the whole thing together, but that each sort of trilogy was its own sort of time and space, and dealt with, a lot of sort of regular people in irregular situations. And I try to kind of do the same thing where, I have a sort of very vast universe. There's a lot of characters, a lot of stuff happening, but it's all, interconnected in one way or another. And that's kind of what I go for, sort of mixed with like a Stargate SG-1 type of atmosphere is kind of what I'm going for.
Nice.
Yeah, I really like the regular person but weird situation kind of thing, as opposed to writing some, hyper powerful godlike person. Although I broke that rule a little bit for my book, The Glorious and Epic Tale of Lady Isovar, because she's just a total badass, but she's also completely stupid and goofy and
you gotta have both, right? You gotta have a little bit of both.
Yeah, that one was the one I've tried the hardest to make funny. So that was.
I like the idea of challenging yourself to writing a character that, like a Superman kind of character, who's almost all powerful, can't be hurt, and then having to sit down and think, okay, how can I hurt this person?
Yeah.
What can actually threaten him? Because you got to get into weird stuff to make that work. You got to because when I read sci-fi, what I'm looking for is I want a unique problem that would be a sci-fi problem. That's the same approach I make when I think come up with sci-fi stories. Is I need a sci-fi problem. It can't just be like Star Wars doesn't have sci-fi problems. Star Wars says we have to go rescue the princess. She's in a castle. That's Star Wars, and that's very, very fun. But it's not a sci-fi problem. Whereas Star Trek, they have real sci-fi problems. Spock is dead, but here's this missile that brings planets to life. That's a weird sci-fi problem that wouldn't fit in any other genre that I know of, anyway. So for the books that do it the best for me are Hyperion has weird sci-fi problems and concepts. A Fire Upon the Deep by Werner Vinge has some of the best sci-fi concepts I've ever read. It's just fantastic. That one's about the universe is when you get to the center of it, technology doesn't work. Intelligence only gets so far. But when you go to the outer edges of the galaxy, technology works better, space travel is faster, magic is almost possible as you get away from the center for some reason. But there's some kind of weapon in the center, and all these people are racing to get it. And the closer they get to it, the slower everything goes and the less things work. And it's fantastic. And then it has the best aliens I've ever read anywhere. Fire Upon the Deep. Read that one too.
That one's on my list too. Have you ever read Blind Sight by Peter Walks?
I haven't. That one's on my list.
That one I had some trouble with it. I was very intrigued by it.
That one's like vampires, right?
There's a vampire.
Yeah, there's a vampire. Yeah.
It felt very jump aroundy narrative wise, but I probably didn't give it enough of a chance.
I think it's fair. I think that book definitely makes you work. Which you could take as good or bad writing, I guess, depending on your perspective. Yeah. But
I bounced off of Hyperion twice before I said, okay, I'm going to read this, and I decided to read it, and then I got real into it after that.
Some books, I think you need to be in the right space for it,
Yeah, because I wasn't quite aware what I was getting into with Hyperion. I kind of picked it up blind.
It's a hard read, isn't it? It's a hard read, isn't it?
No, it's not. It's not a hard read. The beginning was just kind of dry for me. I didn't really get what it was promising. But oh boy, it gave a lot.
I think there are some books like that where some of their greatness is in their complexity. I remember I started Lord of the Rings when I was maybe 10 or 11. And I was like, oh my God, another dwarven poem, and it took me, reading it 10 years after to kind of see that was part of his whole thing. And even though I still didn't read them all, that was part of what made it really cool, was that he knew all of this stuff and was only showing you part of what he knew. But it did interrupt the narrative. It kind of was like, okay, we're going to pause while he shows off for a while. It had that kind of Moby Dick thing, where every other chapter is about whaling. But that happens in other books too. And I think sometimes the books that are best ask you to do some work to understand them and to kind of to figure some stuff out and figure out how to relate to them and what they're trying to do in terms of structure.
Yeah.
That the kind of pulp novels don't always have, which doesn't necessarily make them any less good or less fun. But it's weird. Like you can see in paintings, there is artistry here and less so in this, picture that's on a cereal box. But in books, it's a little more subtle sometimes.
It's a different experience.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, Tobias, you were mentioning Narnia before. What's your favorite Narnia book? And why is it Horse and His Boy?
It's been so long since I've read them. I really don't know. It might be, could be A Horse and His Boy, might be The Silver Chair.
Silver Chair is fun. It felt more like a classic adventure, but Horse and His Boy was just so different from all the other books, and it was just such a fun.
It's been so long since I read them. I think I would have to reread them, which I probably should do.
They're very fun.
It's a good challenge.
I didn't much care for Last Battle.
Yeah, Last Battle is not the most well received for many reasons.
I think Dawn Treader, I didn't like that much either.
No, I did like The Voyage of Dawn Treader. That's one of my favorites for sure. It just has that whole island hopping vibe, kind of like a Legend of Zelda, Wind Waker sort of thing going on.
Yeah.
Which is fun. I didn't love the movies as much as the Disney movies as much as I did like the cartoon.
Are you excited for the Netflix movies?
I'm not sure. I really haven't been following up with it too much.
Yeah, they got the Barbie director.
Okay.
She's bringing modern pop music.
Sounds a little bit questionable.
What's her head? Who's the lady in Devil Wears Prada? The older one.
Meryl Streep, is that who we're talking about?
Meryl Streep. She's playing Aslan.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Oh yeah.
So that'll be interesting.
Yeah, that's different.
It's a little bit different. It's a little bit different. I look forward to seeing what she does. Hopefully she gives us a really weird Narnia. I hope someday we get a really weird Lord of the Rings. That's like people, they talk about things being remade in the future because eventually it must be done.
I don't think you remake a series though that won like 27 Oscars. It's like remaking Ben-Hur, It's like, I don't know, can you really do that?
Yeah. But I mean, give it 40 years. Let's say in 2065, we get a new Lord of the Rings trilogy, and it is not replacing the old one. It's just it's clicking randomize on the design of everything. I would love to see a different take on Lord of the Rings. Like if you look at some of those old covers, like the really weird ones for Lord of the Rings, like the bootleg covers that just looked like madness and very colorful and bright. I'd love to see a weird Middle Earth.
If it was something completely different, like reimagined entirely, I'd be all for it.
Is this kind of they did that Romeo and Juliet movie with Leonardo DiCaprio in modern times, something like that. Totally different.
I don't know if I want it in modern times. I still want it like Tolkien, but okay. I want to see someone else take Tolkien's stuff and have their imagination with it. Like if Tim Burton did Lord of the Rings,
I was gonna say like
that'd be wild.
How about
like you maybe haven't seen the animated version or the TV version because then you would not be wanting other people to mess up Lord of the Rings the way that those were. I really don't know that you could do that one better or that you should try. I think you could do The Hobbit better because that just got.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think The Hobbit should be the next big thing.
Yeah. But the Lord of the Rings, he was so true to the spirit of those, and the characters were all great, and they made them all at the same time, so there was continuity. And I don't know. I just feel like that was kind of something that's going to stay special and be special for a really long time. I think you could do a reinterpretation, a shift in tone or something, like I think Wizard of Oz and Wicked both work, but it would have to be different. And I think it would have to not be from the perspective of the Fellowship exactly to to kind of to be something worth exploring. I don't know.
Do it all from the orc perspective.
Well, I mean, that would be strange, but yeah.
Orcs don't need to be complex, though. They need to be simple scaries.
Yeah, but what they tried to do with the Hobbit TV show or something? I didn't watch it, but
I didn't watch it either. I didn't care. Yeah, so maybe that wouldn't work. But when does Lord of the Rings go public domain? When does that happen?
Probably another 100 years, maybe. I don't know. It's probably still a while.
I think in like 40 years.
40?
I think so. I think someday we will get a Lord of the Rings sequel written by some super fan who knows everything about Tolkien.
2044 in Europe and 2050 in the US.
Wow.
Open season. Mark your calendars.
Yeah, but I wonder if anybody will care by then,
I think you'll have your super fans. I bet there are people right now who are thinking of, like, Tolkien very famously wrote that first chapter of his sequel he wanted to do. The New Shadow, I think he called it. I bet there are people who've been just dying to jump into that and explore.
Maybe, but I mean, if you look at what was really popular 90 years ago, now nobody's talking about it, or almost nobody. The one exception might be the Wizard of Oz stuff, but I mean, like, nobody's doing Edgar Rice Burroughs. Not much, even though he was huge and he was in the 20s, so it's not even 100 years. Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, that's interesting.
I'm kind of with you, Dave. I think people will lose interest after a while.
Yeah.
Okay, so in terms of the shift of public opinion, where do you see fiction going in the future? Because in classic fiction is very scholarly, almost like very smart people were writing big things. Now anybody can write a really, really big thing. So is it just going to get dumber and dumber, or are we going to have a renaissance at some point?
I think all of that is complicated by AI, and I think we have to figure out how to get through that and get back to where people care what individuals' stories are going to be, which I think we'll get to, because I think AI stuff is going to be
I think AI is going to be both a curse and a blessing, because all of the lazy hacks are going to be satisfied with the little AI things. And all the actual artists who are actually working on things they're passionate about, there's not going to be very much competition in the real book space. I think the AI is going to take time, suck up all the other people that could be in the little AI spaces, because the future isn't authors using AI to write books. The future is readers using AI to make their perfect books. Because they're not going to go buy books on Amazon anymore. They're going to have their app that makes their perfect book that's just for them. AI is going to say, here's the book you've always wanted to read. Oh, you're right. I love this. Would you like 10 more? Yes. Would you like it printed and sent to your house? Yes. No, these won't be for sale anywhere. They're just going to be on their phone only for them. That's the dark future for books.
Just going to be the AI storyteller reading you a story that it makes
basically, yes. And it'll say, would you like the movie? Yes, I want the movie, and they'll do that.
But that's true. But I also think
it's going to suck up that market, though. All the get-rich-quick people using AI to publish books, like self-publish them, that won't be viable anymore. The people who are still buying books are the people who want the real books. And they'll sniff out the AI stuff. Like, oh, if I want AI stuff, I can have my app for my AI stuff. I don't need to buy an AI that you wrote because it wasn't made for me.
I don't know. I think people aren't necessarily, people who don't think about stories aren't necessarily going to ask an AI for the right kinds of things. I think it would be easy for me to list all the books that I like and say, write me a thing like them, but I don't have any faith in a large language model to actually discern the commonality between those that really gets me going. And I think that, there's a lot of crap at any point written by, people who aren't innovating and who aren't necessarily as good or whatever as the top authors. And I think AI is even a level below that because it's even more imitative than, the people writing yet another, sparkly vampire novel or something like that. So I kind of feel like that space is going to exist with more layers than it had, but I think there's still going to be something that's pretty special about people who think of some new thing to do or some new way to kind of mix old tropes and to come up with something there. And I think we're kind of celebrity focused enough that those people then become kind of their own center of gravity once they do something cool, and you can see that happening over and over again with Martha Wells or Dinneman with the, like they develop their own sort of following, and because they're real people that people can relate to, and in many cases pretty cool, people feel cool supporting a real person. Whereas if it's like this was written by, Beefcake 424, like who's that? I don't know. They aren't anybody. So yeah, I don't know. I kind of feel like we're in the middle of something where people see it having a lot of possible outcomes, but I think the real outcomes are maybe more limited than what the tech bros would tell you and what the kind of disaster, negative Nancy's would tell you too.
I don't think we'll get to disaster levels with AI in writing. I think Amazon will. Amazon's going to have big problems.
Yeah.
But I think when it comes to actually the art of writing, I think our value is going to go up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can already see Amazon starting to rebuff it, and they don't totally have an economic incentive to, except that they're kind of seeing that if we allow this ocean of machine written crap, then that dilutes the quality of our stuff and people will gradually leave, even though in the moment they will start reading it and will get some sales and more page reads or whatever. But I think they're starting to be smart enough to realize that that's not a sustainable kind of way to go.
Yeah.
And I don't know, the tech bros or the AI proponents would tell you, well, it just takes the virtuoso with the prompts. And I'm like, no, it doesn't. You guys don't know. You don't know what you're creating even, like you don't know what makes it good. So yeah,
unless the big publishers start pushing their own AI books, I think we're probably okay. I think if they start doing that, then Barnes and Noble is stocking AI books, then we're going to start having a problem, a real serious one.
Well, there was that one book that came out that was accused of having AI. I forget what it was called, but it was a traditionally published book, and they had to pull it from all the shelves. People got really angry. So I think the people trying to use AI to get into the creative spaces, unless they're making stupid memes that no one buys, they're just there.
Yeah.
I don't think people want to buy the creative AI stuff. I don't think people mind seeing them. I think people like the weird, stupid little memes. But I don't. AI's future is going to be in I think medicine and science, and those spaces are going to flourish. I think.
Yeah, I wish we would use it for things that are hard that it's good at, as opposed to things that are, that are fundamentally human. Yeah.
I think the biggest problem with AI is just the hiding of it. Like if it's, we don't know if it's, we have to try to detect if this is AI. Did you really write this, or was this written by AI? Is this, if it was just known, if it was just shown, if Barnes and Noble has an AI shelf, that's okay with me. I mean, I hate that, but it can exist, whatever.
I don't want it to.
Yeah,
it's not okay.
But if it's hidden, that's a problem. That's more of a problem for me.
If someone is generating AI books to sell, and he's using them to pay his rent and his electricity and buy groceries, power to you. Do whatever you want. Let people know what they're buying, because if they feel betrayed, that's gonna be a problem in the future for them. I think honesty. If you're honest about where this thing came from, it's gonna find the audience that wants that. And the less you deceive people, the less you make people angry, the more successful you will be. And of course, if you do the lazy thing and just, I think the reason why AI has been pushed so hard in the creative spaces, it's almost like we've found a genie, or people think we found a genie. So we've had these dreams of these things we've wanted to make, especially people who aren't that creative. They have this idea of, oh, this would be an amazing movie, or oh, this would be an amazing book. Oh, I'm not quite good enough to make this thing. Now there's this genie who could make it for them. So I think people have been trying to live that dream. I think that's where the AI stuff has been living in the creative spaces. Of course, you have your grifters and people trying to make a quick buck, but I don't think that's going to last that long in the
There are
AI,
some
in the
people-
creative spaces.
There are some people who think it's actually like people that are actually authors that were writers before the AI really came into fruition. They're like, there's nothing wrong with it. This is just the future, and it's a tool for me to use in my own writing, which I don't agree with at all. But there are people like that, and they're just like, this is still my story, but now I can write 5 books this year instead of 1 or whatever. But I think they're a minority, those type of people, because they're kind of dumb, just to not realize what you're doing and how it doesn't really make sense. But
I bet people are going to get wise. You're going to say, okay, how many books has this person written this month? They'll go, interesting, 7.
I mean, you don't have to, browse Amazon that long to start becoming real suspicious of certain accounts and certain book series. And, besides the obvious AI artwork on the covers, like the timelines just don't make any sense at all. And I don't know. I'm always.
I love on Twitter all the AI tweets. They always end with, "It's not just blank, it's blank." They all end with that little twist of phrase. I'm able to spot them really fast now. They're always usually 500 words long, and they have paragraph, and so it's starting to get easy to see.
James Patterson's been putting his names on books he didn't actually write for quite a while now, just selling the brand. So maybe it's a late career thing that people are going to do once they.
You could probably still hire a real living, breathing author for cheap enough that you don't need to do that.
Yeah, no, I don't think he's using AI, but
yeah,
there's always like James Patterson and then this smaller person who actually did all the work on the cover of the book.
Poor George R. R. Martin's going like, please fix all the problems in this book for me.
Listen, he gave up a long time ago. We just all need to get okay with that fact that Game of Thrones is never going to be
for
done.
the past 2 years, he's just been generating book after book after book. Like, maybe this time, and he reads it like, oh no. Goes back again.
That's why I think that AI is not going to replace that, right? Because George R. R. Martin, even though he hasn't finished everything, had a different idea about how to do a really political, really violent and twisted kind of tons of characters book.
Yeah.
It's not that had never been done, but he did it with a voice and a focus and a kind of setting. And that's not something that's just going to pop out of a bullshit engine. Like that's a person thinking about what would be a new way to make a cool story. And AI is never going to think about what's a new way. It can only think about old ways. And so I kind of feel like that level of creativity is what made all of that stuff resonate. And of course, most of us wish that he had finished them, but
yeah.
I'm still of the mind that he did in fact finish it the way he wanted to on the TV show. And then when he found out that everybody hated it, he was like, you know what? Never mind. I'm not going to actually write that.
Well, maybe there's some modern day Brandon Sanderson waiting out there to finish like he did Robert Jordan's.
There you go. Yeah, maybe.
Series, and not everybody will like it, but it'll be done. Yeah, maybe.
What are the odds that he actually finishes it?
0.
You think 0? Absolutely 0?
I'm a hard
I think he's too big now. He wouldn't bother to do it, but maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, he seems to be looking for excuses to not do it anywhere he can. Like, Elden Ring. You know what I mean? Like, he wrote for that instead of working on it. He's done thing after thing. So I think it's not happening.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh well. At least we get House of the Dragon season 7 or something. I think that
I think it's
launched
season
tonight,
3.
didn't it?
Yeah, season 3 was tonight.
It's the big boat fight.
You know, I remember.
I think it's a boat fight.
I remember going to. He had an event here because he's from New Jersey, so he had an event here when he released Fire and Blood, and I went to that, and pretty much the entire time he did not talk about A Song of Ice and Fire at all. It was purely him talking about his really obscure sci-fi that nobody's ever read, and that was all he wanted to talk about.
Tough Travels, or what was it called?
Yeah, I don't even remember. I'll be honest, but
I liked those stories. I forgot those. Yeah, those are great short stories.
Sure, I mean they're awesome, but we were at
they're all about him. Have you read them?
A Game of Thrones event, and he wasn't talking about Game of Thrones at all. Which
has anyone read his Tough Travels?
What's that?
No, I read A Song for Laia. That was pretty good.
So his space short stories are basically just about himself. It's about this very wise, very smart, fat man who outsmarts everyone, who's like a god. He discovers this spaceship that makes him like all powerful, and he goes around and he's all fat and wise. It goes on and on how fat and beautiful he is.
Wow.
They're very unintentionally funny, I think, but they're also very fun little sci-fi stories.
Yeah, he didn't get the impression that they were funny.
I mean, I found them very, very funny because I just imagined him writing about himself as being this very wise, very fat man in space that everyone just loathes but respects. Well, cool. To round this off, then we're a little bit over an hour now. So, you've all finished your short stories and submitted them?
Done.
Yeah, I have.
I'm behind. I need to finish mine still.
No,
so
deadline's still way off. You're okay.
Mine's still getting feedback, so.
Oh, good. I hope my feedback is good, and my feedback isn't this. Well, I hope people are very, very brutal. I'd much rather. I'm desperate to make this a good story. If it's not, I don't want to be accepted. I want to be absolutely rejected from the anthology if it's not good. So where can people find you?
I'm mostly really just on Instagram, Adam Fernandez, author on Instagram. Mostly lately posting a lot of D&D content. So if you like D&D, definitely drop a follow.
Excellent. Dave, how about you?
So my author site's davebasonbooks.com. And that's where all of my books and stuff are. I have a little game company, planktongames.com, that has some puzzle games and stuff. And then if you want to know what I'm thinking about day to day, I post a ton to Facebook because I'm old. But I'm also on Blue Sky and other ones too, if you want to look for me there.
Very cool, very cool. Tobias.
TobiasYoungblood.com is my website. I'm not very good at social media. I'm not really a huge fan of it. It kind of drains me, but I do post on Instagram probably the most. Every once in a while I'll post on X, but I'm on all of them. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Blue Sky. I'm on every couple months I'll look in it and just close it out.
You open that door, see any blood today? Yes, lots of blood. Okay, maybe another day.
But yeah, mostly Instagram, probably the best place to hang out.
Very cool. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on. I look forward to reading all of your stories. I know people have been posting them. I haven't read any of them because I didn't want to get influenced, I guess. Tobias, you got magical bugs in yours. So I'm hoping my magical bugs are different enough.
They sound pretty different. Not even the same genre. I don't have any. Well, I won't say there's no trees in my story, but they're not a feature. They're not featured in it.
Okay.
They're not a character.
Well, thank you all for coming on. Everyone, like and subscribe. Follow these authors. The anthology is live on. When is it? When did the Kickstarter go live?
September 1st, right?
Believe.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds right.
I believe the Kickstarter starts on September 1st.
Yes, all the links are below. Check them out. Check out all the sites, all the books. Thank you all for coming on the show. Goodbye.